Hey everybody, it's Josh Rundquist here for the Heavy Debriefings podcast. I can't believe we already have 3 episodes in here, and amazingly, my co-host here has not wanted to quit yet. At least she has not told me so. The Metal Faerie, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for continuing to do this with me. People have been steadily checking out the show. The second episode has been doing better than the first episode, which is great to see, and I hope that trend continues.
I'm glad I haven't turned them off from your product.
I'm glad I haven't turned myself off from the product as well. But yeah, this is the last podcast of my 11 years in being in front of the mic. Or behind the mic, depending on how you look at it. Coming up on Wednesday, August 2nd, I officially hit 12 years.
That's crazy.
And it is crazy. I mean, considering everything I've done, I'm almost at 900 interviews. I've had so many different iterations of the podcast in so many different ways, from just playing songs to just making it interviews to just talking about my life. And now here we are, you and I talking about our lives together, the stuff that we enjoy, some stuff that's some heavy as well,
Definitely.
outside of that. And, just trying to make the show as fun and realistic to how we just talk to each other every day.
Our banter.
Just a little less swearing so it doesn't need to have that adults only label on the podcast.
Exactly.
But I also bring up the 12th anniversary of me in front of the mic because there was a little bit of a present that we talked about last week that was going to be for my birthday. I also wanted to include it for my 12th anniversary. It was the Simpsons 1-Up arcade, which,
Yes.
if you didn't check out last week's show, I found an amazing deal for 1-Up arcade of The Simpsons and The Simpsons Bowling. Normally goes for $700. I found it for $200.
Yes.
Then a couple hours later, the Metal Faerie found it for $120.
Yes.
And a few days later, we noticed it hadn't shipped. It wasn't doing anything. It seemed a little fishy to me. What happened?
Yeah, so we bought it through, do we want to say who we bought it through?
A big chain department store.
Yeah. And they also have third-party sellers on there, but, silly us, we kind of thought they would have been verified, and they had a ton of reviews on it, so I assumed it would be for this seller in particular, because I believe that's usually how it goes with other sites, but regardless, we noticed there were some issues, like a shipping notice had been created, but nothing ever really happened with it. It wasn't moving. And so eventually we got an email saying that our order had been canceled and refunded. Wah, wah.
Yeah, I was just about to take a nap, and then you jumped into bed and let me know what happened, and
Cried.
She cried. I was on the verge of crying. The good old new medication I'm on makes it a bit harder to cry, but
Yes.
I definitely wanted to. Yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to do something different for Wednesday and my birthday coming up in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Not sure what that'll be, but I'm sure we'll think of something.
We'll figure it out.
And that was just a nice little cherry on the crappy week both of us had in our personal lives. Mental, physically, work-wise. It's across the board for all of us here behind the mic. But one thing that was kind of a gut punch to both of us, even though it didn't affect us personally as we didn't know this person, it did hit us pretty hard because of what she has done in her life, the struggles that she went through, and sadly her demise from it at 56 years old. Sinéad O'Connor sadly passed away from herself and her mental health demons this past week.
Yeah, definitely super sad. She was such an amazing human being. All the things that she fought for, and just her music was very beautiful as well. I didn't listen to a ton of her music, but she had such an amazing voice, and it's just so sad to see somebody struggle with mental health like this, and it brings forward how much mental health isn't taken seriously in our culture and across the world, and it's just something that needs to change.
And a huge problem that I have with all of it, with the coverage of all of this, is so many outlets that chastised her for well over 30 years now for what she did with the picture of Pope John Paul II. And they stopped covering her. She basically got blacklisted or canceled, if you want to go by today's rhetoric. And, she did so much good after it. She kept putting out music. She was a diehard defender of mental health struggles, being honest with what she had gone through. Mm-hmm. Sadly, losing her son last year to his mental health struggles as well, too. And sadly, that was the beginning of the end for her. And the media just all of a sudden said, oh, she's always been a natural born musician. She was such a great artist, a real treasure. Yet, they hadn't talked about her in over 30 years.
Where has the coverage been in previous years? It's not until something tragic happens that people pretend to care, and that's sad.
It really is, and she did have some incredible music outside of the Prince cover, which a lot of people don't realize that Nothing Compares to You is a Prince song. It's just Sinead O'Connor's version is the bigger version of it. And the only cover Prince said while he was alive that he enjoyed of his music. Yeah, and it's just really sad to see that. I mean, that was basically the big thing that happened in music news. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it affects me because, I'm very well outspoken about my mental demons. I mean, I made a whole YouTube series about a lot of it up until 2019. Then it became too much for me to continue on doing that. It's just, it leads me with thoughts of how I want to try to continue on. But when things like this happen, it's also that feeling of, well, what if it never gets better? But the one thing that does come to mind when I think of that is, if I do take my life in my own hands, I've decided that it can't get better. I don't know if it's going to get better if I continue going. But that's better than deciding that it's not going to get better.
Exactly. And as cliche as it sounds, if you ever feel bad, just give it another day. You never know how you're going to feel an hour later, 5 hours later, the next morning. So just keep holding on.
And that, but also if you see someone struggling, friends, family, whatever, just reach out to them. You don't need to even ask them about their mental state. Just treat them like a human being. Don't treat them like they're struggling. Treat them like you want to have a real conversation with them. Sometimes that's one of the biggest lifesavers of them all, is just feeling not alone. And you have the power to do that if you have people in your life.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need to be there. It comes down to if you've heard of Brene Brown, but there's a sympathy versus empathy. And you don't always need somebody to kind of sympathize and be like, oh yeah, I've gone through that too. Sometimes you just need to be there with them and be an ear.
It's true. And of course, if you don't have someone in your life, or you don't feel like you can trust someone in your life, there is so many outlets online, telephone numbers. Do you remember the special number?
I do not offhand, but you know what? We can get that and put in the comments or in the description for this if you are needing help and needing to reach out to somebody.
Yeah, we will put this in the comments because I just want to make sure that no matter who you are, just reach out.
Absolutely.
And if you do know me personally, I know a lot of people who do check out the show do know me personally, and if you are struggling, just reach out to me as well too, because no one gets it more than someone that is gone through it or is going through it. And sometimes just knowing that feeling of that we're going through struggles together and we're still here is a great motivator.
Absolutely.
All right, and back by popular demand, mainly from me, we're going to continue on with the Metal Faerie checking out 3 random songs that she's not going to know what they are ahead of time and give her brutal thoughts behind it. Of course, I'll give my little feedback as well too, but of course I am the one picking out the song, so that's going to be a little interesting as well. But how did you enjoy it last week?
I mean, it's definitely interesting. Some of the songs, obviously, I enjoyed more than others, so can't say I enjoyed some of them, but it's fun diving into new music or music I just haven't heard before and giving opinions.
Yeah, this little musical roulette that we're doing here, Rush and Roulette, potentially, it's really fun to do for me. I love seeing her natural reactions to something that she is not privy to ahead of time, even though it is a little gut-shakening for her. I have fun with it, and let's see what goes on here with song number 1. All right, and the first song that we just checked out is a band that I've been actually going back to a little bit more thanks to Spotify. I only really listen to Spotify while I'm gaming, but occasionally I have the randomizer on there, also known as their DJ, with their AI DJ, and they throw in some stuff. I listen to a lot of punk occasionally, depending on the games I'm playing, like Bad Religion or The Descendants, and this band came up. Funny enough, I bring up the gaming story because this is where I first heard the band on the PSP version of Need for Speed Underground before my brother stole it from me. The band Rise Against with the song Give It All off of Siren's Song for the Counterculture. Lynn, are you familiar with Rise Against?
I'm somewhat familiar. Like, I definitely remember early 2000s hearing them on the radio back when I used to listen to the radio quite often. I always found them catchy. I never really went beyond that, though. I never dived into any of their albums or anything like that. I have heard you play them, obviously, around the house when you've been gaming a bit lately, and yeah, they're very catchy. I mean, they're very catchy. They got that early 2000s pop punk that I do actually like some pop punk from the early 2000s quite a bit, so definitely a band I could get into more.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have a very strong left-wing leaning lyrics and song ideals and stuff, which I know is something that's very near and dear to you. That's
Absolutely.
why you love Bad Religion and Offspring
Yes.
so much. I need to get you more into the Descendants as well as, well, the later albums. There's a couple problematic songs in the beginning, but I think that came a lot from teenage angst and trying to be edgy and stuff in the 80s.
Yes.
Early 80s, I mean, you can't really... It's hard to give people crap for things that they said 40 years ago when it was a different it was a different time.
It was a different time.
But Rise Against started coming back into my playlist again, and I remembered how much I enjoyed them, and it was the first song that came up randomized, and yeah, it was cool hearing that. I think you should give them more of a shot.
Absolutely.
All right, so for this next song, yeah, this is a band I've loved ever since a little before my graduating year of high school. This is the first song that I ever remember hearing from the band because it is the first song off this particular album. A lot of people who don't know them very well say that they sound like a more mainstream version of Mr. Bungle, which I don't really get. I mean, it's got some wacky moments in the band, of course, but I really don't see the Bungle comparison. It is the band Dog Fashion Disco, off the album Adultery with the Sacrifice of Miss Rose Covington. Now, I've been showing you this band over the last couple years or so,
Yes.
and I was a little apprehensive at first because they occasionally have some clarinet, they occasionally have some trombone, they occasionally have some saxophone, all instruments that you don't enjoy.
Right.
But everything has an exception, and I've kind of learned that this is an exception for you. Go on, Metal Faerie.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've definitely turned me on to them over the past few years. Never listened to them before. I think I'd heard of them before, but never gave them a chance at all.
Yeah, I mean, how often would a person like you go out of their way to check out a band that you never heard the music of before called Dog Fashion Disco?
Yeah, by name, it does not sound like my cup of tea at all. But yeah, I mean, they're so wacky and inappropriate, quote unquote. Depends on who you are. And they sing about such like crazy things that like it's super intriguing and it just draws you in. Super fun listen, regardless of what you pick from them. This song in particular is a great one. It's not my favorite. My favorite's probably Pogo the Clown. That one's just impeccable.
And it's funny because that's like one of their most jazzy lounge style songs.
Yeah, which is not my thing at all, except for rare exceptions. But this would be one of them. They are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Dog Fashion Disco, they can sing about Scooby-Doo, they sing about John Wayne Gacy, they sing about a particular set of violation eyes, I guess is the best way I can say it.
Yes, that is a great song too.
Yeah, this particular album, Adultery, is about it's a concept album about a private investigator finding a serial killer. And there's some twists and turns you don't necessarily see coming in it, but it's all more or less horror inspired. Sometimes the lyrics really go out of their way to be horror. Sometimes it's a lot campier. And if you can't have fun with the music that you're making, then what are you doing?
Exactly. And for all those people who are into like the true crime like podcasts and like listening to serial killer things and stuff, check this out. It's totally up that alley. It's just in song form.
Yes, and if you like Dog Fashion Disco, or if you want to go a little bit different with it, there's a lot of side projects that involve members of Dog Fashion Disco. The biggest one is probably Polka Dot Cadaver,
Yes.
which is a little more electronic, but they also became much more of like the metal version of Dog Fashion Disco. One particular album that I enjoy the most, Last Call in Jonestown, which is, of course, about the Jonestown Massacre.
Oh,
And you can see the tongue-in-cheek with just the title alone.
yes.
They have one of the most hauntingly creepy ballads ever with Chloroform Girl, if you remember that one at all.
Yeah. You definitely need to go into it with like an open mind, shall we say. Like it's grim topics, but like it's done in a way that's supposed to be over the top and like outrageous, and like it's supposed to be funny.
And funny you bring that up, because that kind of is a Freddy foreshadow into something we've been enjoying this past weekend, which we'll be getting into later in the show.
Absolutely.
But it is time for that third song. Is it the best one? Is it the worst one? Well, let me tell you this. Well, not only is this the third and final song for this musical roulette that we do here, but it also ties in kind of to what I know we're going to be talking about a lot coming up.
Yes.
A superhero, if you will, in this particular song. It is from a band that I loved so much growing up in my high school years. I had to buy this album twice on CD. One time my brother snapped the CD in half, and then I had to buy it again. But that was back in the days when, buying CDs only cost like 10 or 12 bucks. It didn't cost the 20 to 30 bucks that it costs now.
Yes.
It is the New Jersey metalcore band God Forbid with Antihero off their album Gone Forever, their biggest album. The guitarist of the band went on later to form the band Bad Wolves, but he is currently now with the horror metal band Ice Nine Kills, which I still haven't checked out. But this was a song that was near and dear to me, especially when I was reading a lot of superhero stuff. Of course, the song Antihero is about the Punisher, more or less. I mean, it couldn't fully do it without getting sued by Marvel, but if you read the lyrics, you understand what's going on with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard me play this song a couple times. What did you think of God Forbid?
Yeah, so to clarify, this is a band I've always heard the name of, and I know I've heard you playing them. I've just never really known who it was when you were playing it.
Yeah, I mean, they never reached like Killswitch Engage or Lamb of God levels of popularity. I mean, they were much lower, like Darkest Hour kind of level, but God Forbid meant a lot to me growing up.
Yeah, so I will say musically, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really good. Vocals are a little bit more rough for me to get into, I would say. I could get into them in time, possibly, but first listen, it's not my favorite vocals. But
I will say that there is some occasional clean vocals that come up in it.
okay, and that could help. But get me into them more. But musically, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and you pulled up the lyrics as well, and I love the Punisher and stuff, so that's really cool to see a song about him and stuff. So yeah.
All right. So out of the three, how would you rank all three songs? Like out of three, like 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, I would say as of right now, and until I give more of a listen to any of them, Dog Fashion Disco would definitely be my favorite. then probably rise against, and then God forbid. But that could easily change with more listens.
That does sound about right, especially for what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And, I want to keep this going every week. This is one of my favorite parts of the show, is just hearing your real opinions of songs that I listen to, or maybe songs I'm not that familiar with.
Yeah.
I keep saying musical roulette because that might be what I call this segment. I'm not sure yet. Or
Yes.
or Rush and Roulette, to make a Howard Stern reference.
Yes.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. But until next week with that segment, thank you for enjoying this segment. Now it's time to get into some other stuff here. All right. Well, now comes What's Your Problem? Last week, I was giving out the questions and trying to defend. Now it's the Metal Faerie's turn to flip the tables on here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So, what is your problem with reality TV?
Oh, I have so many problems with reality TV, but I would love to hear you defend it first before I dissect it.
Absolutely. And I will preface this by saying there's some areas of reality TV that I don't really go into myself, but overall, it's such a good escape from reality, from your own reality. You get to surround yourself with this silly drama that's hilarious, but it's not your drama, so you don't have to deal with the aftermath. You get to see how far humanity will go, what pushes them to their breaking points, and what the almighty dollar can do to people.
And for all those reasons and more, that's why I don't have an interest in reality TV. I've spent my whole life surrounded by drama and awful people in various ways, shapes, and forms, financial incomes, styles of people, love drama, violent trauma, drugs, cops, all these different things. And the occasional high school bullcrap that I never wanted to deal with. So seeing someone else deal with it leaves me sad, actually. For one, sometimes someone's biggest problem is, who slept with who. I've never had that kind of problem before, and I never will. I'm not sure if you've ever seen my face or my body, but I'm pretty sure I don't have to worry about something like that. So I can't relate to that. When it comes into more of the things that I know you enjoy, like The Real Housewives, it's just a bunch of very rich people who are empty-headed,
Yes.
that have no real opinions,
Yes.
fighting over nothing.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
From a podcast that I thoroughly enjoy featuring Kyle Kinane, he mentioned that before he was doing stand-up full-time, that he used to do the closed captioning for The Real Housewives. And one particular time, there was a screaming match, and for the closed captioning, he just wrote incoherent screaming.
Yes.
That's not my baby, unless you put it in the musical form.
But it's so fun to watch. And first of all, as far as the drama growing up, I don't enjoy reality TV that tears apart the real day people. I don't. I like the reality TV that is people who are already wealthy and have an option to do this and are just being stupid on TV.
But that's not all you enjoy, is it?
I mean,
not
I also
gonna tempt
well,
me.
sure, yeah, I do enjoy some of the love shows, nothing like The Bachelor or anything like that. That's terrible. But Temptation Island, let's see, I can't remember, but all those kind of shows, yes, I do like some of those as well.
And you see, unless it's a weekend that you're gone and I just pull up the computer or the phone, close my eyes and take myself away to paradise, I'll never get to experience those situations for myself.
That's
the
the point.
the 20s and the early 30s, hot people just constantly doing
Yes.
almost softcore
Yes.
stuff. First of all, if you're going to do it, I want to see the whole thing. And second,
Oh dear.
it's so scripted. It's so fake.
Yes.
I can't take my mind out of that situation of just knowing that it's not real. I prefer a well-written show like we're going to be talking about later, instead of just seeing people who can act, who are supposedly hot. I remember the first season of the revived version of Temptation Island, and I think the guy had my name or something, but he had the worst punchable face I have ever seen. You know who I mean, that really tall guy with the dark, sad eyes. And
Yeah. But that's what makes it hilarious. You can't watch it as a serious show. You're not going into it for its philosophical beliefs or to come out of it a better person. You're going into it to turn off your mind and get a few giggles.
But there are people who do watch it religiously. Yeah. I mean, think about what I just said with like Temptation Island or Love Island or F-Boy Island, which I'm surprised you never watched. Let's do the more Disney princess version of that with like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. There's reality podcasts about it.
Yes.
There's a particular radio station in our area that talks about it all the time. Howard Stern took away anal ring toss to talk about The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
And it is fun talking about this stuff. I go on some Reddits about this stuff. It's
just to check in.
It's hilarious to talk and gossip about this stuff, but I don't take it seriously. Are there people out there who do? Absolutely. And I am not one of those people, and I'm not promoting that way of going about it. But it is fun to talk about and fun to gossip about and just get kind of lost in this silly world for a little while and forget the terrible reality that surrounds us.
Look me in the eyes. Right.
Yes.
Look into both my eyes at the same time.
I'm trying.
Tell me, honestly, what I would enjoy about reality TV.
It's hilarious. You would have line after line that you'd bring up down the road, which you already do, JP Morgan.
JP Morgan!
It's funny.
Oh, and I'm glad you brought up the JP Morgan, because a show somewhat related to that is one of the most vile things I've ever been subjected to. And I only have one friend in my life that actually agrees with you on enjoying this show. I won't mention their name, but the show is Vanderpump Rules. Every single person is despicable.
Yes.
And I don't advocate violence against women. I understand it. Just like Sam Kinison.
Sam Kinison.
Yeah, that was Sam Kinison.
Sorry.
You should know that. Your Bon Jovi videos, Bad
true.
Medicine.
That's true.
Yeah, but every single person on Vanderpump Rules deserves a punch in the throat.
Yes, they are absolutely terrible.
And why would I want to watch something that would make my blood boil?
It's so hilarious to watch it.
But it just makes my blood boil.
And that, you know what? That's a you problem.
It is a me problem.
It is. I'm glad we came to this conclusion.
Yes. Now, is this something you would actually want to sit down and watch with me with, or do you prefer watching it on your own?
I prefer watching it on my own.
All right, so There's no reason for me to watch it with you. I would have to watch it myself.
I mean, I do turn it on in the bedroom sometimes when we go to bed, and it puts you right to sleep.
Yeah.
But...
And I always send the Simpsons meme of Disco Stu going to heaven, and he meets Frank Sinatra, and it's playing disco music. And Frank Sinatra just goes to Disco Stew. To me, this is hell, you dig, Pelly? That's Vanderpump Rules to me. So, I will say you've done an excellent job defending reality TV.
Yes.
For someone who enjoys it like yourself.
Right.
Maybe someone on the fence listening to this, and it's like, maybe I should give it a chance to escape reality. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I'm won over yet.
Yes.
But I won't say I won't leave the room if you put it on. I won't get out of bed if you put it on in the bedroom.
Yeah.
I won't do that.
Exactly.
You can continue doing it. I will make my little remarks and make fun of stuff that I hear, but I just don't think I'm going to be going deep diving termite style into reality TV.
Yes.
So we talked about one form of television, and we'll be getting back into television, but we're going to do a quick little left turn into movies that we watched this week. This is the most amount of movies we've probably watched together in quite a while.
Yeah.
We spent, like I talked about earlier, both of us had very crappy weeks. But what was a huge saving grace for both of us was sitting in front of the TV and watching stuff.
Absolutely.
I don't think there was anything that was like flat out terrible that we watched this past week.
No.
But we did enjoy some stuff that we talked about last week. In particular, Art to Clown in the Terrifier movies.
Yes.
So with that, I've always heard of them. I see the memes. People have always said that it's really shocking stuff that goes on there. And I will say between Terrifier and Terrifier 2, they feel like two completely different style movies.
Absolutely.
One feels a little more methodical, and one feels a little more like a slasher. And I gotta say, I did enjoy both of them, but let's start with the first one that started all this. Although apparently there were some Art the Clown movies that happened before this, but this was his first standalone movie, Terrifier. Go ahead. What did you think of the original Terrifier?
Yeah, the first one, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, it's just kind of the movie where that psychopath just kind of shows up and like just goes on a killing rampage. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. It's just bloody, crazy, over the top psychopath.
Yeah, and I love that it was shot on such a low budget. It basically takes place in one building for the most part.
Yeah.
There's killings that happen before it, there's killings that happen after, but it mainly takes place in this one abandoned building, and Art the Clown doesn't say a word. I was expecting more of like a Freddy Krueger, like, surprise, bitch, kind of thing going on there, but that did not happen.
No.
Sometimes, like Michael Myers, you don't really need to say words. You can just do everything through your actions. And boy,
Exactly.
did he do some actions in the original Terrifier.
Oh, yeah, it was a very bloody, like, out there as far as the killings go. Like, it's extreme.
Yeah, the one particular blonde that gets killed
Yeah.
is one of the most jaw-dropping horror deaths I've ever seen in my entire life. How did you feel about that particular one?
Yeah, I mean, I have seen worse. I definitely have ventured the deepest depths of horror compared to you and what you've seen. But
Any examples that tops that one?
nothing I'll throw out right now. But maybe this is a topic we can come back to later.
Ooh, thank you, Freddy Foreshadow.
But yeah, for like movies that I've heard like the general public talk about, yeah, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah, and of course there's more stuff that I need to see as well too. I mean, I've gone down some more of the wow, I can't believe they got away with this in film kind of stuff, like the original I Spit on Your Grave, which has some quotes I can't say that I love saying off the mic.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that was the particular one that shocked me for the original one. And yeah, it felt like the beginning of a good franchise. But the thing is, they did make a Terrifier 2, I think it was like 5 years later or something like that, somewhere like 3 to 5 years later. And it felt like a completely different movie. It almost felt like this was the origin story of Art the Clown, but it is a sequel to the first Terrifier. It feels completely different.
Yeah, like the second movie, I will say I love the feel of. It reminded me, it was kind of reminiscent of the feeling that I had as a kid watching Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. If you've seen it, you'll know about this, but like...
Rockin' with Dawkins.
Yes, but like both movies entail a teenage girl creating something in her bedroom. And Freddy, she was making Freddy's house, and this one she was making her Halloween costume. And it just had that same kind of 80s feeling that I had as a kid, like in my bedroom in my parents' house, like encompassing myself with like horror and stuff. And it was a really good like kind of throwback feeling. Outside of that though, like, yeah, I mean, it felt like an origin story, but it kind of was lacking in that way too, because it felt like it was going to be some big revelation that came through at the end, like that put all the pieces together, but that never really happened. It ended up being just kind of like, again, this random killing spree, but yeah.
Yeah, and you know, there's a little bit more to it. Like, the one thing that I took away most from Terrifier 2 is it felt like it left you with more questions than answers.
Yes.
Because it introduces a new sidekick to Art the Clown. It gives you backstory without all of the backstory. There's like, what happened to this person? What happened to that person? Mm-hmm. Although the one thing I will take away is, it did have another one of the most extreme horror deaths that I've ever seen, all taking place in a bedroom. Mm-hmm. What did you think of that particular kill?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was pretty extreme for kind of, again, one of these movies that you hear about a lot, but I've seen worse. But...
Okay. Yeah, I still feel like the one from the original Terrifier was probably the one that made my jaw drop the lowest. But that second one, that was the goriest of all of the deaths of the first two movies.
Yeah.
And I, at some point, might need to go back and check out the other Art the Clown ones because like, I think one's like The Ninth Circle or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that they're both kind of anthology horror movies, which is right up my alley. I love the anthology horrors. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed both of them. We watched them back to back. But of course, during Terrifier 2, in the opening credits, they talk about particular actors and actresses that are a part of the movie. And throughout the entire movie, during the down points, mainly because I didn't want to do it while killings were going on, I had one particular question. Where's Chris Jericho? They prominently showed Chris Jericho in the credits.
Yes.
Like he's billed above some of the people that get killed in the movie. And he shows up at the very end for about 2 minutes.
Yes. In the credits.
In the credits.
Yes.
The mid-credit thing, you know, like Marvel and DC and all the superhero movies do.
Yep.
He's in the mid-credit role and offers absolutely nothing at all.
Oh, come on. He's eating his Jell-O dessert.
That his wife made for him.
Yes.
That was supposed to be for Halloween.
Yes.
Now, all the stuff that he was doing the words with had more of the payoff because it leads into some bigger questions for a potential Terrifier 3. But Jericho, all he did was sit there and eat in front of a desk. And if that doesn't describe his movie career, I don't know what does. But those weren't the only 2 movies that we saw.
No.
In fact, we watched one Friday night.
Yes.
Over the last couple of years, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of him. I never knew your real feelings behind him. But over the last couple of years, we've coincided that Nick Cage is one of the greatest actors of our time.
Well, yeah.
Be it Vampire's Kiss, be it Face Off, be it Con Air, be it Mandy.
Yes.
There's so many different ways, shapes, and forms that Nick Cage can take. But nothing is better than when Nick Cage goes full Nick Cage.
Yes.
And he pretty much did that for arguably the whole movie.
Yeah.
The movie Sympathy for the Devil. No, not the Rolling Stones documentary with the same name.
No.
It is a brand new thriller starring Nick Cage. Now, I came across this just from screenshots of seeing Nick Cage do his Nick Cage face. And I showed them to you and I said, we gotta go see this.
Yes.
Unfortunately, even though I saw movie theaters say that they were playing it, they were not playing it. Boy, does that not sound like a Walmart, oh, we have this arcade, but we're not gonna sell it to you kind of thing. So we got Amazon signed back up for that, which we'll be alluding to a little bit later after this. And we watched Sympathy for the Devil. What were your thoughts?
It was brilliant, but I have no idea what happened.
Brilliant. I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Exactly. I mean, like you said, Nick Cage was Nick Cage throughout. Like, it's worth the watch just for that. I mean, him dancing to I Love the Nightlife. What more do you want in life?
In a truck stop diner.
Yes.
Yeah, it is amazing. If you don't care about plot, if you don't care about structure, you just want to see a vehicle for Nick Cage being Nick Cage, spend the $7, go into Amazon Prime, and rent Sympathy for the Devil. Don't buy it.
No.
It's only worth watching once.
Yes.
Unless you want to watch it with friends. But it is worth the $7 to see what I just described, Nick Cage being Nick Cage.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much a movie where not a lot of story progression happens during the movie. It's more so talking about things that happened previously. And that's the part where it gets super confusing because it is very, very unclear.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing with, like, when you write scripts or you write characters or dialogue is neither main character of the story is a reliable storyteller. Yeah. And the best way I can describe this is like in The Dark Knight when the Joker keeps talking about his origins and he changes the story every single time. So you don't know what to believe.
Yes.
It is similar in this movie as well, too, where one character says one thing, another character says something different, then the former character says something different, then the other character says something different. You don't know what is actually going on.
Exactly.
But yeah, if you just want to see some insane moments with Nick Cage, yeah, go check it out. All right, so again, those weren't the only things that we watched in front of our Black Mirror this week. We also spent 2 hours pretty much wasting our time this past Wednesday watching AEW Dynamite. it is another reason why if we do eventually get rid of the cable, which we need to do, we need to discuss that more.
Yeah.
It felt like 2 hours of padding. It felt like nothing happened. It feels like they're saving everything for AEW Collision on Saturday nights, which we are taking a stance not to watch. And it just feels so boring.
Yeah.
Am I alone in that thinking?
You're not. I mean, I can honestly say I don't remember a single thing that even happened this last Wednesday.
And that's kind of the point, isn't it?
The only exception would be, and I don't even remember specifics, but the only things I'm enjoying right now are the relationships between MJF and Adam Cole. That whole thing is funny to me. And then the Don Callis and Chris Jericho thing, just because I love Don Callis. But
Don Callis is a Canadian treasure.
we don't deserve him. He's so good. But yeah, I mean, especially coming off of last week when Coda made an appearance, I was kind of hoping that he'd get signed and kind of become a AEW wrestler, but no such luck so far. So it just kind of feels like it just went back downhill.
But don't worry, there are talks that Goldberg will be signed and will be showing up at either All Out or All In. So that will make up for Kota Ibushi here.
Well, we can all celebrate then.
Yeah, hope we don't get copyright stricken for a song that doesn't actually have any copyright behind it. But with that said, regardless, let's switch things up to games here.
Yeah.
Now, you think that would be a good segue to say that I've been playing AEW Fight Forever?
No.
You'd be wrong. I finished up Far Cry 6 again, my second playthrough of it. There's still some stuff you can do after the game. It's a lot of stuff that you already did, but at a harder difficulty, so there isn't really too much point to do that. I also can't platinum the game because some of it requires multiplayer, and I'm a single player kind of guy. Unless we're playing it together couch co-op, which is not what I'm talking about in this particular situation.
Yeah.
There was no point in me getting all the trophies if I can't get all of them, or at least that's how it feels to me. I've also been playing Twisted Metal 1 and 2, which we'll be getting into the TV show in just a moment. But it is fun going back and playing the original games as chonky and tank-like as they feel now. It is still fun to go back to, particularly Twisted Metal 2 feels the best. I still want to see Twisted Metal 3 and 4 happen. I don't think 3 is going to happen because the entire soundtrack is Rob Zombie music, so I don't ever see that getting a re-release, but it is fun going back and playing the Twisted Metal games. If nothing else, I'd love to see like a remaster of Twisted Metal Black, which is my favorite Twisted Metal, and I would love to see that with better than PlayStation 2 graphics. I'd love to see it updated. They do so many remasters and remakes these days. Why not Twisted Metal Black? I know they are talking about making a new game for it, particularly a live service game, which makes me tug my collar, and I really, really don't want that.
Yeah.
But I also understand how that could turn into a live service game. It makes sense. But the other game that I've been playing is another throwback. I mentioned this on the show last week, but I finally got the chance to start playing it. The incorrectly named boomer shooter known as Ion Fury. It is a perfect throwback to Doom and Quake and Duke Nukem, Unreal Tournament, all of these classic style games. Updated with brand new jokes. I showed you a few of them, particularly the one that involves the room,
Yes.
which I found particularly hilarious. But there's a lot of great jokes that happen in it. It feels so buttery smooth to play. It is very, very hard. I had to knock it all the way down from hard to easy just to be able to progress because I kept dying over and over again. Then, I think it was Friday I was playing.
Yeah.
You sat down by me. I was finishing up this gigantic boss, and I didn't know how to leave the level.
Yeah.
I accidentally fell off a platform to my death, and it
Yes.
led me back to having to try to beat the boss over again. So I've stopped playing for a while. I might be going to play something else. Let go of some of my frustration. We'll see. But
Yes.
that's what I've been playing. How goes the continuation of Skyrim for you?
Yeah, so I've definitely still been playing Skyrim as always. This round I've definitely been trying to do some of the things that I never actually completed in previous rounds, or at least I don't remember completing. So this time I actually got all the East Empire pendants and handed those in. And then I realized that apparently, for some reason, Bethesda decided that this isn't a quest that'll ever shut down, even when you do complete them all. Unless you kill the guy that you hand them into and it essentially fail the mission, then it'll go away. But otherwise, it'll always sit there. And there are a number of these now. I have like 5 different missions that are just going to sit there forever because they will never complete. And that's really frustrating. And it's annoying when I'm trying to finish everything this time.
Remember that meme that I showed you a few days ago of welcome to Bethesda, here's your desk.
Yes.
And there's a chair in the middle of the table.
Yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
That's about what it is. I'll say that on my phone, I've still been playing Love Island, the game. We came back from the other Casa Amor, and we had to decide if we wanted to stick with our original couples or twist with a new member.
Oh, what did you do?
Well, I don't want to be with either because there's another guy in the main island that we've had a little history,
Ooh.
So I stuck with my original just to stick. But it was frustrating because three episodes, one season, with 3 episodes comes out at a time, and this entire season was like just dealing with other people's drama. We didn't get to deal with our own love interest at all. So it was really frustrating. And also this season, you have a twin that's on the island with you. And every 2 seconds, she's coming up to you. Hey, we got to have a twin chat.
Wow.
Everybody hates her. On the Reddit forums, everybody hates this twin. We just want to send her home already. And then I've also been playing Too Hot to Handle on the phone as well.
Now, what is Too Hot to Handle?
So it's similar to the Love Island game. I think I talked about it in one of the previous episodes, except it's just done a lot better than Love Island. You don't have to pay coins for anything, and it's just great. But it's frustrating this season too, because a lot of the people that you want to couple up with, you're not able to. You're stuck in these friendship routes with them. So lots of issues in the love games.
Even though I haven't played either game, I will say, if you haven't seen what I look like, if you play either of these games, you will not be able to find anyone that looks like me. I am not the body or the face of what dating simulator games or apps are looking for.
Well, neither am I.
And is that why you keep playing them?
No.
To find your true computer love?
No, it's just going back to reality TV. It's that cheesy fun escape
from the horrors of the reality that you live in.
No.
No, I get it. And speaking of horrors, I think it's time for us to get into some particular horrors, some thrills, spills, chills, and kills of all of the shows that we've been checking out this week.
Yes.
This week has been incredible for our TV experiences.
Yes.
While only 2 of these are new and 1 we just started watching, we're going to end with that particular one.
Yeah.
But we're going to go in chronological order here. We started off season 4 of Harley Quinn.
Yes.
It is a DC animated show on Max. This goes into the what's your problem for next week. This is the one animated superhero show that you will watch.
Yes.
And I'm amazed I even got you into this one.
I am too.
But you got into it. You actually grew your love of Poison Ivy from this.
Absolutely, yeah.
It isn't the traditional telling of Poison Ivy, but no one in the show has the traditional comic book version of what's going on. But with season 4, things have been truly divided for the love of Harley and Ivy. King Shark is a father of 10 very ugly sharks. Clayface has his own Las Vegas show. There's a lot that's going on, especially when you watch the first episode of the first season of Harley Quinn. It feels like a different show now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's such a fun show, and I just love the relationship between Harley and Poison. They're fun together. They're crazy. They're law breaking, but they're just endearing at the same time.
For the record, she called her Poison, not Ivy, which is not what a lot of people do.
Yeah, well.
I'm just giving you a little bit of crap. You're gonna do that. You're gonna do that for me too. It's what we do. But it is a very fun show. One downside is that they release 3 episodes at once. On the positive side, you get to see 3 episodes at once.
Yeah.
You get an hour and a half of Harley Quinn after waiting a long time since season 3. But on the downside is you have 2 less weeks of enjoying the show.
Yes.
Or possibly even more if they release more in 1 week or whatever. I would like to think for the rest of the episodes, they're going to do it once a week. But it gives me something to look forward to every single Thursday when it's on.
Absolutely.
So it's a bummer when there's less weeks of that.
Yeah.
But on to it next. Immediately after watching Harley Quinn, we decided to take our medicine and actually watch Twisted Metal, the brand new series on Peacock featuring the brand new Captain America, BoJack Horseman, Samoa Joe, and many other characters and actors you wouldn't really expect on a show like this.
Yeah.
Nev Campbell, of all people.
Yes.
Which I'm very curious to see what's going to be going on there. But the one thing I will say before we even get into the show itself, last week we talked about how we were going to hate watch this. We were going to go MST3K all over this.
Yes.
Like, we were just going to sit back and enjoy how much it sucked. Did it suck?
No, not at all. And you would not expect that from the trailer. The trailer was horrible. And as you said, whoever did that trailer should be fired.
Yes.
It was horrendous. But the show was amazing. It was really, really enjoyable. Like, it was fun. It was actual, like, meaningful story. It actually kind of critiqued society and brought in kind of just this sociological aspect to the story too, which I always love because it helps, you kind of get deeper invested into it. And it was just amazing. It had humor to it. It had those kind of, for laughs moments that, that they're kind of a little pandering maybe, but
Low-hanging fruit.
But it was still enjoyable.
Yeah, I thought this was going to suck.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, I'm just going to watch it because I love Twisted Metal so much. But the deeper you get into it, the better it gets.
Yes.
Every character, for the most part, has something very gripping about them that makes you start to appreciate them a little bit more. I will say that the 2 main characters of the show, as far as I can tell, are not main characters of the games. One in particular starts driving an automobile that I'm not going to spoil who it is, that is a part of all the games, but it's a different driver than you would expect. But the main character, the Captain America, we don't know his real story yet. It could be like the Mortal Kombat movie that came out a couple years ago where it could be a brand new character. He might be someone that drives a vehicle that we all know and love. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of story that goes on with that, but Sweet Tooth probably made the show.
Yeah, he was amazing.
The voice of BoJack Horseman, Will Arnett, and Samoa Joe playing the physical version of Sweet Tooth, which it's a little weird knowing hearing BoJack's voice come out of Samoa Joe's body. But instant star of the show. I never want him to get killed for as long as the show goes on.
Yes.
He needs to have his side stories. He is an absolute treasure to the show.
Absolutely.
What did you think of Sweet Tooth?
Oh, he was hilarious. Like, he's like that endearing loon. Yeah. I mean, you never know when he's going to snap and just off you, but at the same time, he has that teddy bear side to him.
He's just a big huggable teddy bear where if you say the wrong thing, you'll get your head cut off.
Exactly.
Another point I want to get into without spoiling anything is, again, like the deeper you go into the show, like maybe you won't even be sold in the first episode or 2. That is entirely possible. But if you keep going with it and you grew up with Twisted Metal, you know some of the folklore of Twisted Metal, it all comes together by the end. And at the very end of the show, not the mid-credit thing with Sweet Tooth at the very end, but like right before the credits start to roll, it leaves you chomping at the bit for season 2 because it's everything that you want. And I really hope the show does not get canceled because I need season 2 to happen. And if you're a longtime fan of Twisted Metal, you know what's going to happen. It's the whole basis of the series is finally going to come down. And I need that.
And I will also throw out there, you do not need to be a fan of Twisted Metal, the game, to get into this. I've never played it in my life. I've seen you play it, of course, once in a while, but I had no backstory, very little backstory going into it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And especially seeing the preview, my fear was going to be that this was going to be like some Fast and the Furious, like just like all about the cars and the like, let's grab this really successful song and throw in here because the people will love it. And it's not that. I mean, do they throw in like some big songs and stuff like that? Again, a little bit pandering, low hanging fruit. Yes, but it's done in kind of a funny way instead of a like just like let's get the people excited and action packed and blah blah blah.
Yeah, like if you look at the 2016 version of Suicide Squad, where it felt like it was really pandering you with all the licensed music that it has, with the Jared Leto Joker. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so much of that. In here, it feels like it's making fun of that idea.
Yeah.
Like the songs that are used have a purpose behind them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just taking the crap out of everything. Sometimes it has a meaningful purpose behind it. It's not just the songs that you know.
No.
But also, in speaking of songs that we know, in speaking of a lot of thrills, spills, chills, and kills,
Yes.
we discovered probably, well, even though it didn't come out this year, it's probably our second favorite show that we watched this year, number one being The Last of Us.
Yes.
But this show has quickly become one of my favorite TV shows that I've ever seen. And we just started watching it after watching Sympathy for the Devil.
Yes.
It is on Amazon Prime, and it is pretty much the poster child show for the entire app, The Boys.
Yes.
Being a longtime superhero fan, I didn't watch this, mainly because we haven't always had Amazon Prime. We've had it in the past before. I kind of almost forgot about the show as well at times. I've always heard people talk about it. I got reminded of it again because in the upcoming Mortal Kombat 1, one of the main characters of the show, Homelander, is going to be a downloadable character in Mortal Kombat 1. And knowing that we just got Amazon Prime to watch Sympathy for the Devil, and we were having some problems logging in and stuff, so I was thinking, okay, executive decision, we're going to watch The Boys.
Yeah.
I told you a little bit of what it was about, and we went to click on it, and it still didn't work. Some account settings later, we finally got to watch Sympathy for the Devil, and then we watched The Boys. Now, as someone who knew absolutely zero about the show going into it, what was your initial impressions of The Boys?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the title before, but I don't know. I figured it was some bro show that I just would never enjoy, so I didn't even care to look into what it was even about. But yeah, upon the first episode, I fell in love. It's amazing. It's everything you could want in a show. It completely makes fun of like superhero movies in general, but it also completely makes fun of society, and it's kind of a grim reality of what society is today. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love the fact that one of the biggest things that I do love about the show is that it's not even about being a superhero or a supervillain. It's about the reach that you get in social media.
Oh, yeah.
That's all people care about. It's not about saving lives. It's not about killing people. It's about getting that reaction online. And if that's not just a great metaphor for the world that we still live in today, especially from 2014, 2015 onwards, due to one particular former government employee that kind of is alluded to later, the more that you watch the show. Yeah. And, it's just like, I know there is the argument that I've seen so often about how there's no more good characters anymore. There's no more evil characters anymore. Everyone is a shade of gray. What happened to black and white? What happened to good and bad? Some people are just evil for the sake of being evil. Some people are good just for the sake of being good. My retort to that is every person is a shade of gray.
Absolutely.
We all have good and bad for us. So why not just have it be a reflection on life? What is wrong with showing all these different sides of a person's personality? Because we're not true good or true evil. We're all true medium in different shades. And from all the characters on the show, every single one of them is a horrible human being in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
The ones that you think are good are awful. The ones that you think are awful are awful. The ones that you don't even expect to really have a purpose ends up having a huge purpose. And from all the guest stars that show up on there to the stories that they tell to us currently right now, we're just about halfway into season 3, which is the latest season of the show. There is a huge metaphor that's going on for he who shall not be named, but will be named Donald Trump. I feel like it's only going to grow more and more. We only watched the first 3 episodes so far, but you can really feel like Trump had a huge inspiration for season 3 of The Boys. And I'm just so curious to see how this is going to play out. Is it going to play out like the reality that we lived in? Or is it going to do the right thing? Who knows? But I will say, it has so many great laughs, so many great raunchy laughs.
Yeah.
The deaths shock you with how they are done. Like, I was talking about Terrifier and, like, all the horror kills that are going on. Some of them in The Boys are more shocking than Terrifier.
Yes.
And I love that so much because you just don't expect it. Although the more you watch it, you expect something to happen, but you don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, it keeps you on the edge of your seat because you always, every time you see something, you think that's the craziest it could get. Like, what are they going to come up with after this? And then it goes a little bit further.
Yeah, one particular example, without giving anything away, deep sea diving in the very first episode of season 1 with one particular character. And then it kind of gets called back into season 3 in a different way with some log exploring.
Oh dear.
I'll just leave your imagination to what that could potentially be.
Yes.
But yeah, every season feels completely different as well too. Well, not completely different, but each season feels like its own thing.
Yeah.
Like it continues onward. Obviously, it's telling a huge overarching story. But like the first season was a lot more funny. The second season was a lot more serious. The third season, at least so far, it feels like it's more real life to things that we've dealt with, especially if you live in America over the last several years. And I'm excited to finish that up tonight.
Absolutely.
All right, and now just to finish things up, we are going to be doing some music stuff now. Of course, in the beginning of the show, if you take out the arcade stuff, we talked about Sinead O'Connor. But we're going to be talking about the music that we've been checking out. Some of it over the past week, some of it longer. Maybe some stuff to look forward to. We'll see what happens. But starting it off, I wanted to go over my top 10 albums of July 2023.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how I should do this. Maybe I can just do a quick little rundown of it here.
Absolutely.
Okay. If you've ever checked out my videos, or if you check out heavydebriefings.weebly.com for the written version, you know that I do my top 10s monthly in alphabetical order. Not to give anything away for the end of the year, because I want that to be a big old surprise about how that comes together. It's the biggest thing that I do all year when I do my top 100.
Yes.
Still deciding if I'm going to do honorable mentions. It depends on how many albums that I go to check out. I mean, currently right now I have 132 songs albums from January through July. So that might happen. But yeah, just to do this quick, first, Chamber, A Love to Kill For. If you like the more really chaotic hardcore, mathcore, some metalcore stuff going on there. There's a lot of core moments, a lot of breakdowns, but if you like bands like Dillinger Escape Plan or The Chariot, this is a band for you. Edenfall with To Gaze Longer at the Earth, debut album from this band. This is a band that you've been enjoying.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed them. Like, it's just a good mix of like really brutal music, but then this beautiful, clean female vocal over it too, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, and especially for a debut album. I mean, if this is what they're doing with their first album, I only feel them progressing and getting stronger on the next album.
Absolutely.
Elaine is the next one. I think that's how you pronounce it. Elaine with We Shall Remain. Notably, they were just on tour here in North America with Moonspell. They are a great symphonic band that's not afraid of being a symphonic band.
Yeah, they are really good too.
Yeah, like a lot of symphonic bands are afraid of being symphonic bands nowadays for some reason. It's the Amaranth effect.
It is.
But Elaine actually has orchestration to the T.
Yes.
Perfectly done. And some of it almost feels pop rock. One song in particular feels like Dimmu Borgir.
Yes.
They have a lot of great range, and it's definitely a highlight for me. Then I got Fen with Monuments to Absence. If you like the black gaze, atmospheric black metal style, In the past, the band focused way more on the atmosphere and the post-rock sound of black gaze. On this particular album, they focused much, much more on the black metal side. This might be their most evil black metal album that they've done to date. So there's some atmospheric moments on there, don't get me wrong, but if you like the more black metal side of black gaze, this is definitely an album to check out. Next up is Mistfall with Celestial Vision. This is another one that you've been thoroughly enjoying.
Yeah, I talked about this last week on the show, but again, some amazing female vocals on this one, symphonic elements. It's really great.
Yeah, it's a band that I've been thoroughly enjoying as well. If you're one of those people that think like symphonic, gothic, doom metal is not around anymore, Mistfall proves you wrong.
Yes.
Next up, I have the brand new album from Stefan Weinerhall, formerly of Falconer. Of course, he started off doing black metal. Then he made folkish power metal with very theatrical vocals.
Yes.
And now, how would you describe them?
I think I talked about this. It was either last week or the week before on this show, but the first single that I heard from them reminded me of the Techno Viking video on YouTube. But it's so good. Like the entire album, it's such a weird mix, but it's enjoyable to listen to. It kind of just gets you going.
Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be for everybody. I can see how the vocals would be off-putting to some people.
Yeah.
I've grown to love them. At first, I was trying to figure out how I felt about it.
Yeah.
But if you like synthwave, if you like electronic music,
Yes.
and you like heavy metal, there is something for you to appreciate about this album. Maybe the production isn't perfect. This came together very, very quickly. But I feel like the next album, I think they're going to perfect everything that they've done with their self-titled debut and just become even stronger. I mean, when you look at the first Falconer album compared to the last Falconer album, there was a lot of change that happened within the band, and they only got stronger. Maybe not better. I mean, everyone has their favorite albums from particular bands, and Falconer is no exception. But my favorite album from them was the last album with the initials Fade, with being their last album from A Dying Ember. But I feel like this is the same kind of case where they're just going to keep getting stronger.
Absolutely.
Next up, I have Still Being with World Builder, another debut album here from Texas. It covers a lot of extreme ground, from progressive metal to black metal to doom gaze. It has a lot of different sounds going on. It's a few different guest appearances that happen as well too. This was a very pleasant surprise for me. I checked this out, and I really feel like this year, a band that does progressive stuff is not just doing wanky stuff, although exceptions, of course. I like the way you feel about Haken. They just wank for the sake of wank.
Yes.
I don't feel that way with Still Being. They have a lot of great progressive moments, but it's more on the extreme metal side of things, so black metal, death metal, doom metal, sludge metal. It all comes together. It could be a little off-putting for some people, but if you like the more extreme stuff, this is an album I definitely think you should check out. But if you want more of that old school, new wave of British heavy metal sound, but through more of the revival metal sound, another debut album from the UK, Tail Gunner with Guns for Hire. I showed this to you. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I love it. This is my version of heavy metal, like that classic kind of but new version of heavy metal. It just gets you going, you know.
Yeah, and, I've made this point before, like, if you've checked any of my recent rant videos about opinions to make, heavy music fans mad. I bring up the fact that just because you're first doesn't mean that you're the best.
No.
And in this particular case, everyone thinks Maiden is the first new wave of British heavy metal band. That means that they're the best new wave of British heavy metal band. That means no other band, not Saxon, not Priest, not any of the revival bands matter because Maiden exists. Tail Gunner is an example of a band that can take sounds that kind of sound like Iron Maiden, like the twin guitar and the vocals and everything, but they're able to add their own spins to it, like double bass. I mean, there's no double bass in Iron Maiden. Nick O'Brien does not do any kind of double bass whatsoever, except for one song. It has almost like a classic power metal feel behind it as well, which I think makes them stand out. There's a lot of war themes going on, obviously with the name like Tail Gunner, referring to the military and stuff, but it's a really fun album. It makes me want to put on my denim vest. I have the Bullet Club and just drink some Pabst Blue Ribbon and just go headbanging. Then next, we got the Zenith Passage with Data Elysium, the sophomore album from this band, who feels like they've been around forever, but they only have 2 albums. And they started off as a very tech death band, and on this album they've become much more of a progressive metal band, which I thoroughly enjoy. There's some tech stuff that I appreciate, but you don't need to do every single note on the fretboard to impress me. Write riffs, write songs, do something memorable. And I think the Zenith Passage definitely learned this on this album. I also think 75% of the band quitting over the years, and there's a brand new lineup that's going on featuring members of the current version of Cynic, a part of this band. It makes a lot of sense that they went into a more proggy route. I know you're not always into prog. I mean, it's got to be a particular style. Of course, that could be a fun little thing to discuss. Is Symphony X a power metal band or a progressive metal band? I think that would be a fun little debate to do at some point.
Absolutely.
Because we definitely have our sides on that one.
Yeah.
But if you want something that's almost tech death, but definitely in that progressive death metal side, the Zenith Passage and Data Elysium is a great album for that. And finally, I have the band 1476 with In Exile. This is what I refer to as North American folk metal, and when I say it like that, I mean it could either be like the Native American style, with like a band like Black Parade, which I totally forgot to put on my July 2023 list, which I just remember now. Very Native American black metal. Agalloch is a great version of that. Panopticon, one of my favorite black metal bands, is what I refer to that as well. But they also have elements of punk, more heavy metal vibes, some black metal vibes. 1476 has all these different styles, but it all fits together so well. Sometimes it's more acoustic bass, sometimes it is black thrash, sometimes it feels like a punk song. It's got a lot of great variations behind it. So I know you just checked out one song and you didn't really know how to feel about it, but it could be something you're into. But possibly. I mean, and even if you're not into this one, there is a lot of albums that you do enjoy from my particular top 10.
Absolutely.
So, has there been any albums that have come out in July, or anything that you've been listening to in July that you've enjoyed?
Yeah, so a couple things that I wanted to bring up. So, X Japan put out their first new song in 8 years.
I did not know this.
Yes, Angel is the name of it. I haven't heard anything about any new album coming out. I know few years back, I think it was like 2019, there was talks of them putting out an album because they had written one completely done and stuff, but it just never came out.
Maybe it's the cover of the Boris song, Angel.
I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't think so. But it's beautiful. It's everything you want from X Japan, and listen to it. Go listen to it immediately. I've also listened to, there's been a few songs now from their upcoming album coming out next month, but another new single came out from Vandenberg. I love Adrian Vandenberg. I've been a longtime fan of Adrian Vandenberg.
Now, what has he been a part of over the years?
Well, Vandenberg for a long term, but he was also involved with Whitesnake in the past as well. And they newly, as of last year, Mats Levin is on their vocalist, who you might know from Yngwie and Therion and Candlemass.
And Skyblood.
Yes. They have a few singles out now from their upcoming album, and I'm thoroughly enjoying what they're doing. So
what do you think of Mats Levin's voice, now that you've heard him a little bit more?
Yeah, I enjoy his voice, yeah. I mean, I've obviously heard it with some of the previous projects he's been part of as well, but yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, you weren't that familiar with him.
Not by name.
Not by name, but now you've been enjoying him more, which I appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For August, is there anything that you're looking forward to at all?
Well, that Vandenberg album is coming out then, so I'm excited to hear the rest of that. And outside of that, I guess I don't know what else is coming out.
Yeah, I kind of forget this too. There's a lot of albums that are coming out August 18th, the day before my 35th birthday. One band we kind of discovered together a few days ago, a band called Orbit Culture. They were supposed to be playing Prague Power before they got onto a bigger European tour, and hey, that was probably for the best.
Yeah.
But we heard one particular song, and we both really enjoyed it. You found the lead singer to be very easy on the eyes. That's something I'm looking forward to. The new Syra album is also coming out on August 18th. I am hopefully doing an interview with Jake E., formerly of Amaranth, to discuss the album. Yeah, I've gotten the chance to be able to check that out, and I feel like this album is the culmination of what they've been trying to do over the years. Like, on the first album, it has a lot of, like, In Flames influence, especially with Jesper formerly being in Flames. That's going to happen, but I feel like this album is the first real Syra album, not just Syra with other influences. I feel like everything's come together with this. There's a lot more that is coming out in August. I'm totally blanking out on all of them, but I do have a little list here of stuff that might help with that. Lancer is a band that I think that you would enjoy. It's very much of that revival metal sound.
Yeah.
They have a new album coming out sometime in the month. One of the worst names for a band out there, but if you like the black gaze sound, An Autumn for Crippled Children.
Oh boy.
Has their new album coming out, more of that black gaze sound behind it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out in this month, so that's going to make me happy for my birthday month.
Absolutely.
A lot of great stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I think that about does it for the show this week. I mean, we covered a lot of great ground here,
Absolutely.
covered a lot of stuff that we loved, a lot of stuff that kind of felt like gut punches to us, lots of good laughs, lots of good times, and I thank you very much for sticking around for the show. If you enjoyed the show, please let us know through social media. I know Spotify actually lets you tell us if you enjoy the show. If you click into the description, you'll actually see a little comment section that asks you what you thought of the show. Please do that if you enjoy it, or even if you don't like it. If you hate the sound of my voice, or if you just want the Metal Faerie to be doing her own podcast, let me know. I'll probably still produce it, but if you just want to hear her voice instead of mine, that's perfectly fine. Of course, check out Heavy Debriefings on all the best social media sites. Threads, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all under the name Heavy Debriefings. No space. Of course, it's spaced out when I type it out, but just when you're searching for it, at Heavy Debriefings. Yes. And of course, heavydebriefings.weebly.com, which may or may not survive the month. We're going to be seeing what happens with that. I hope we get to keep it, but we'll see what happens. And there's going to be a lot more to look forward to. I do have an interview with Cataclysm coming out probably next week. Yeah, next week it'll be coming out. I'm going to be doing more opinions to make heavy music fans angry. I probably won't be doing that tonight as we're recording this, or even tomorrow. I want a little bit of a break from it since I did like 3 in a row. And of course the podcast. We're constantly coming up with ideas, just trying to have fun with each other, just make it as real as possible, because this is how we basically talk to each other with a lot less swearing. But I always have a great time doing this with you. I thank you so very, very much for continuing to do this with me.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is it for the Heavy Debriefings podcast, episode 3, title To Be Determined. Thank you so much for sticking around with us and for the Metal Faerie. This is Josh Rundquist for Heavy Debriefings saying, see ya.